The wind howled through the narrow streets of the quiet town of Elmsbury, tearing at branches and rattling old shutters. Martin Jennings, 72 and recently widowed, watched the rain streak down his kitchen window. The house felt colder since Elaine passed, too quiet, too still. Her favorite teacup still sat on the sill, gathering dust. Outside, the storm darkened the afternoon to near twilight. Martin was about to draw the curtains when he saw it. Something small, darting across the street, skittering through puddles like a shadow chased by ghosts. He squinted. There it was again. A kitten, no bigger than a loaf of bread, soaked and stumbling. He grabbed his raincoat and stepped into the downpour. The wind fought him every step, but he followed the little creature's desperate mews to the hedgerow bordering his garden. Beneath the bent branches, trembling and slick with rain, the kitten lay curled up, too weak to run. "It's all right now," Martin murmured, his voice softer than the storm. He tucked the shivering bundle inside his coat and hurried home, the kitten's tiny body pressed close to his chest. He could feel its heartbeat, frantic, fluttering, alive. He set it down gently by the fireplace and wrapped it in an old towel. The kitten's fur was mostly white, though now muddied, with smudges of grey and a single patch like a star between its ears. Martin rubbed it dry, his hands slow and deliberate. It didn't hiss, didn't scratch, it just blinked up at him with wide, unsure eyes. He smiled for the first time in weeks, but just as he turned to fetch some milk, he heard a noise behind him, a strange thump. He looked back. The kitten was gone. Chapter 2. Tracks in the hall. The towel lay crumpled by the hearth, but the kitten was nowhere in sight. Martin called out softly, checking under the sofa, behind the curtains, and beneath the sideboard. The house had many corners, a lifetime of memories packed into every one, but the kitten had vanished as if it had never been there. His heart thudded. The front door was shut, the windows locked. How could something so small disappear so fast? Then he saw them, faint, wet paw prints on the wooden floor, leading toward the hallway. He followed the trail. The footprints stopped at the base of the staircase, then started again halfway up, as though the kitten had floated or skipped steps altogether. Martin climbed the stairs, each creak echoing in the silence. At the top, the hallway stretched out, doors closed on both sides. One door, though, Elaine's sewing room, was ajar. The room hadn't been opened since her passing. He pushed it gently. Inside, everything was as she'd left it. Her fabric stacked neatly, threads still arranged by color, and in the center of her chair, as though it belonged there all along, sat the kitten. It looked at him, not afraid, not startled, just still, and beside it, on the armrest, rested a small embroidered sachet. Lavender, Elaine's favorite. Martin stepped forward, the air heavy with the scent of memory. The kitten mewed once, quiet and clear, and in that instant, he swore he felt her, Elaine's presence, warm and near. Chapter 3. The lavender chair. He didn't touch the sachet. Instead, he sat beside the kitten, the chair creaking beneath his weight. It pressed into his thigh gently, purring like a tiny engine. Martin watched it, baffled and comforted all at once. It had led him here, not by accident, he felt that now, but by something else, something quieter than reason. The rain eased outside, tapping now instead of lashing. In the hush that followed, he thought of the last time Elaine had sat in that chair. She'd been stitching a little cushion, one she never finished. It was still in the sewing basket beside her chair. The kitten climbed into his lap, curling into the crook of his arm, like it had always belonged there. Martin hadn't believed in signs. He didn't think he could. But something about the kitten's gaze, its quiet insistence to be near, stirred something old in him, a gentleness he thought he'd buried. That night, he let it sleep in the living room, wrapped in the same towel. He whispered almost shyly, "You can stay, if you want." He hadn't named it yet. Somehow it didn't feel like the right time. But the next morning he woke to a soft thump and the rustle of fabric. The kitten had dragged the unfinished cushion from the sewing basket onto his bedroom floor. Chapter 4. The name in the window. He called her Whiskers. It wasn't a clever name, but it suited her. Her whiskers twitched every time she stared into corners or stared up at the ceiling, like she saw things he couldn't. Whiskers followed him everywhere. She waited outside the bathroom door, sat quietly as he made tea, curled at his feet while he read old paperbacks aloud, as if she understood every word. Each day, something strange happened. Small, but hard to ignore. Elaine's music box, untouched for months, began to chime on its own. A photograph on the mantel shifted slightly, not fallen, just turned askew. And once, in the garden, Martin found Whiskers staring at the bird bath Elaine had loved. The water in it rippled, though no wind blew. He no longer felt alone. On a particularly clear afternoon, he stood by the kitchen window. Whiskers perched on the sill. The light caught the glass just right, and in the reflection just behind his own, another figure. Elaine. Not in detail, not clearly, but a softness, a silhouette. Martin closed his eyes. When he opened them, Whiskers was pressing her forehead against his. She had brought him back to life in the smallest, strangest ways. But one night, just as quickly as she'd come, she was gone. Chapter 5. The empty hearth. The towel by the fire lay untouched. Her food bowl sat full. No paw prints, no gentle purring in the night. He searched the house, every drawer, every ledge, called out into the garden, even checked the hedgerow again, hoping against hope. Days passed. The silence returned, but it was different now. Not empty, but full of something unspoken. A quiet understanding. 1 week after Whiskers vanished, he found something on the sewing chair. The finished cushion. It hadn't been there before. The stitching was uneven, but unmistakable. Elaine's initials intertwined with a small paw print in thread. Tears welled in Martin's eyes. He pressed the cushion to his chest and sat in the chair, the afternoon sun pouring through the window. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel the need to move. Chapter 6. The Visitor. Months passed. The house was quieter now, but never truly silent. He kept the cushion by his bed and still found himself glancing at the hearth some nights, half expecting her, Whiskers, to be curled up there. One late autumn morning, a knock sounded at the door. A young woman stood outside cradling a box. Her eyes were kind. "I found this kitten near the woods," she said softly. "Something told me you'd take good care of her." Martin looked down. Inside the box was a kitten. Not Whiskers, but something in its eyes felt familiar. A patch of white on its chest shaped like a crescent moon. He reached out slowly. The kitten didn't flinch. He smiled, tears touching the corners of his eyes. "Come in," he said, voice thick. "You're home now." Chapter 7. The Light in the Rain. Years later, Martin sat in the same chair, the new kitten, now full-grown, resting peacefully beside him. Rain tapped gently at the windows, soft and rhythmic. He had no fear of storms anymore. Each one reminded him of that night, the moment life shifted, when a trembling little creature brought warmth back into a house turned cold by grief. And sometimes, when the light caught just right, he'd see them both, Elaine and Whiskers, in the reflection. Watching, smiling, he'd whisper thank you, voice carried away by the rain. Because love, he now knew, had many lives. And every now and then, it returned on quiet paws beneath stormy skies, carrying healing in its wake.